Chapter 591. 591 Blinding Eyes. Lu Ming's bid made the atmosphere lively again. There are still people bidding. I thought it would fall into the Qin clan's hands. It's him again. It's that young man in guest room number 10 again. Who is this person? Not only does he oppose Qin Qingfei time and time again, but he also has such strong financial resources. The entire place was filled with discussions. Damn it, it's that little bastard again. Shut up, Qin Qingfei shouted in anger. His eyes were filled with killing intent as he stared at the 10th VIP room. In guest room number 10, Fei Shui was also extremely curious. Was Lu Ming really from the Tianxin region? He had asked for more than 20 million supreme spiritual crystals. Was the Tianxin region that rich? This customer has bid 26 million. Is there any higher bid? If not, this bottle of rare elixir of life will belong to this customer. Feng Xiu shouted. 27 million. Qin Qingfei roared. 28 million. Lu Ming did not hesitate. 29 million. 30 million. Lu Ming immediately raised the price to 30 million. At that moment, there was no sound at all. Everyone was staring at Lu Ming and Qin Qingfei bidding. Kid, let me tell you, this bottle of elixir of life is highly valued by the Qin family. You've been going against the Qin family time and time again. Are you looking for death? Qin Qingfei roared. Hee, repeatedly going against your Qin family? I remember that I have never provoked you. Every time, it was you who provoked me first. Now, in your mouth, it has become me repeatedly opposing your Qin family? Lu Ming sneered in response. Kid, if I say you're in the wrong, you're in the wrong. Now, stop the bidding. I bid 32 million. Qin Qingfei roared. What a joke. 31 million. Lu Ming could not be bothered with him and continued to bid. Damn it. President Feng, I suspect that this person is raising the price randomly and doesn't have that many top-quality spirit crystals on him. Qin Qingfei roared. Lu Ming's eyes flickered. This time, Qin Qingfei was right. He did not have that many top-grade spirit crystals on him. Seeing that Lu Ming did not say anything, Qin Qingfei's eyes lit up and he said in joy, President Feng, did you see that? This person doesn't dare to speak. I don't think he has that many spiritual crystals. I suggest we check his spiritual crystals. If he doesn't have that many spiritual crystals, he's disrupting the order of the auction. He'll be severely punished. Feng Xiu's gaze also looked towards VIP room 10. The secret chamber of commerce had a rule that if a bidder couldn't take out enough supreme spiritual crystals after bidding, it would be considered a disruption of the auction order and would be severely punished by the Chamber of Commerce. Someone had once been crippled of his cultivation and even killed for disrupting the secret Chamber of Commerce's auction. By now, no one dared to bid recklessly anymore. Lu Ming was the person who put up 2,000 gold element top-grade spirit crystals for auction. Feng Xiu had known about this long ago. Therefore, he thought that Lu Ming should have spirit crystals. However, Lu Ming's silence now meant that there was a problem. Lu Ming opened the window of the VIP room and everyone looked at him. Indeed, don't have that many supreme spiritual crystals. Lu Ming spoke calmly. The scene was in an uproar. He really doesn't have that many crystals. It turns out that he's just trying to get something for nothing. How dare you? You're trying to get something from the secret Chamber of Commerce for nothing. You're simply courting death. Young man, you're blinded by greed. You're dead now. Many people sighed. This kid really doesn't have any spiritual crystals. Qin Qingfei was overjoyed. He had only said it casually in a fit of anger. This made Qin Qingfei so angry that he felt pain in his chest. He had lost the auction today. Kid, just you wait. Qin Qingfei left these words and left with the middle-aged man. 40 million, is there any higher bid? Feng Xiu's gaze swept across the audience. However, how could anyone bid 40 million? Feng Xiu asked 3 times and finally decided that the elixir of life was bought by Lu Ming. With the end of the elixir of life, the soul-stirring auction also came to an end. "Ha, little brother, how should I address you?" After everyone had left, Feng Xiu took the elixir of life and walked into guest room 10, laughing heartily. Junior Lu Ming greets Senior Feng. Lu Ming cupped his fists and said, "Ha, Brother Lu, you're welcome. This is your elixir of life." Feng Xiu passed the elixir of life to Lu Ming. He then took out a storage ring and handed it to Lu Ming. The 40 million spirit crystals for the elixir of life is just enough to offset the 10,000 intent crystals. Here are 95 million supreme-grade spirit crystals. Please check them. No need. Lu Ming took the storage ring and kept it. The secret chamber of commerce was spread all over the continent. It had existed for countless years and its reputation was unquestionable. Lu Ming was not worried about this. After that, Lu Ming, Fei Shui, and Feng Xiu bade their farewells and left the heavenly secret auction house. "Brother Lu, you shouldn't reveal your wealth. You've taken out so many intent crystals this time, so I'm afraid some people will be after you. You have to be careful." On the way, Fei Shui warned. "They dare to make a move in Hong City?" Lu Ming asked. "In Hong City, most people wouldn't dare to do so. However, we can't rule out the possibility of someone taking a risk out of desperation. It's better to be careful," Fei Shui said. Lu Ming nodded. "Lady Fei Shui, I'll be the host today. Do you want to give me face?" Lu Ming smiled and looked at Fei Shui. He and Fei Shui had met by chance, but she had taken care of him many times. Lu Ming felt that he could make friends with Fei Shui. "All right." Fei Shui also agreed. The two of them found a restaurant and started eating and drinking to their heart's content. "Brother Lu, with your cultivation at such a young age, I'm afraid it won't be a problem for you to be listed on the list of top 1,000 talents in the Eastern Barren Territory." After a few glasses of wine, Fei Shui's cheeks were red and her eyes were watery. She was extremely beautiful. The list of top 1,000 talents of the Eastern Barren Territory? Lu Ming muttered, a glint of light flashing in his eyes. Soon he would have a battle with Saint Constellation, who was on the list of top 1,000 talents. With Brother Lu's talent, I believe it's only a matter of time before you enter the list of top 1,000 talents in the Eastern Barren Territory. Maybe you can even participate in the Battle of Providence in 2 years? Fei Shui smiled, as beautiful as a flower. To be honest, Fei Shui's appearance and aura were not inferior to Xian Yanqing, Qiuyu, or Mulan. She was one of the most beautiful women Lu Ming had ever met. A battle of karmic luck. Lu Ming had some doubts. This was the first time he had heard of it. That's right. The Battle of Providence is of utmost importance. All the geniuses in the entire East Barren will be participating. Not only humans, but even demons will be participating. Brother Lu, have you not heard of it? Fei Shui said. All the geniuses in the East Continent will attend? Lu Ming was very curious. I'm not too sure myself. I only know that the Battle of Providence is held once every 20 years. It doesn't only involve the Eastern Barren Territory, but also the Central Continent, Southern Nether, Western Desert, and Northern Plains. However, there won't be any competition between them. It'll be a competition within each region. At that time, the 4 overlord forces of the Eastern Barren Territory and countless small forces will have intense competition. I heard that anyone who can rise above the rest in the War of Providence will become an unparalleled expert of the continent. Fei Shui explained. Chapter 592. 592 got it, Battle of Providence. Feng Xiu looked at Lu Ming with some doubts. But the next moment, his pupils suddenly contracted. Lu Ming waved his hand again, and another pile of ultimacy crystals appeared in the air. This time, each intent crystal glowed with a blue light and gave off an intoxicating intent. This time, it was water element intent crystals. Intent crystals. Heavens, it's intent crystals again. They're no less than that pile of gold element intent crystals. How is that possible? Who is this person? I've never seen him before. Could he be a peerless genius from some super large domain? Possible? He just bid for the cross-domain token, so he must be a genius from another domain. No wonder he has so many intent crystals. There was another round of intense discussion. Fei Shui, Qin Qingfei, and the rest looked at Lu Ming in shock. President Feng, there are 5,000 water attribute profound meaning crystals and 5,000 gold attribute profound meaning crystals, a total of 10,000 pieces. Sell them all. Lu Ming said. Sorry, I'll take them all. I'll pay 40 million supreme-grade spirit crystals for 10,000 intent crystals. What do you think? Feng Xiu said. All right. Lu Ming agreed immediately. 40 million was not a low price. On average, 2,000 yuan was equivalent to 8 million supreme spiritual crystals. Although 2,000 yuan was sold for 9 million yuan previously, that was because Lu Ming was raising the price. Under normal circumstances, it might not be sold for 9 million yuan. But now, there were even more of them, 5,000 yuan a set. If the secret Chamber of Commerce bought it and publicized it, it would definitely sell for a higher price when it was auctioned. After all, the more intent crystals there were, the more the price would increase. 5,000 yuan for a set was much more tempting than 2,000 yuan for a set. Lu Ming took out a storage ring and kept the 10,000 esoteric crystals in it. He then threw it to Feng Xiu. Many people's eyes were burning with desire. If this was outside, someone would have already made a move to snatch it. However, this was the secret Chamber of Commerce. Who had the courage to do so? Unless he didn't want to live. If they offended the secret Chamber of Commerce, even the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace would not be able to protect them. Some people looked at Lu Ming with burning eyes. Lu Ming actually had so many ultimacy crystals on him. Did he have more? Many people had other thoughts. Lu Ming did not want to be so ostentatious, but he could not do it. He had to get the elixir of life. Moreover, he was going back tomorrow, so he wasn't too worried about leaving this place. At this moment, Lu Ming looked at Qin Qingfei again and sneered, "Now, I have crystals to bid, right?" Detestable. Qin Qingfei growled. His eyes were filled with anger and killing intent. 32 million. Qin Qingfei gritted his teeth and continued bidding. 33 million. Lu Ming increased the bid without any hesitation. 34 million. 35 million. 40 million. In a few moments, Lu Ming had raised the price to 40 million. At this moment, Qin Qingfei's entire body was trembling. His eyes were bloodshot as he glared at Lu Ming. "Quick, send a message to my father and ask him to transfer another batch of spiritual crystals." Qin Qingfei shouted at the middle-aged man. He was no longer fighting for the elixir of life. Instead, he was competing with Lu Ming. "Second young master, it's better for you to give up. Old master just sent a message to tell you to give up. For 0,000,000 is too high. You can't compete for it." The middle-aged man said. "What? No more competition? How can we not fight?" Qin Qingfei's body trembled, and he gritted his teeth. "What's wrong? Are you out of crystals? If you don't, then obediently give up." Lu Ming sneered. This made Qin Qingfei so angry that he felt pain in his chest. He had lost the auction today. "Kid, just you wait." Qin Qingfei left these words and left with the middle-aged man. 40 million, is there any higher bid? Feng Xiu's gaze swept across the audience. However, how could anyone bid 40 million? Feng Xiu asked 3 times and finally decided that the elixir of life was bought by Lu Ming. With the end of the elixir of life, the soul-stirring auction also came to an end. The metal bottle above his head continued to press down. This was a sure-kill situation. Even a peak-tier king would be killed if he was caught off guard. Unfortunately, Lu Ming's current combat strength had already far exceeded that of an ordinary peak-tier king. 10,000 dragon kill. Lu Ming thrust his spear forward and hundreds of 3-colored true dragons flew in all directions. Bang! The jade bottle was sent flying far away by the dozens of 3-colored dragons. The 2 assassins on the left and right were attacked by dozens of true dragons. They coughed out blood and screamed twice before their bodies cracked and they died on the spot. The arrow was the most powerful one. It destroyed dozens of three-colored true dragons, but it also disappeared. "Let's go." Behind him, the expression of a figure holding a bow changed greatly, and he continued to escape into the distance. "You tried to assassinate me, and you still want to leave." Lu Ming took a step forward and cast the 9 dragons' heaven-treading steps. At this moment, the shockwaves of the battle had spread throughout the night. Countless figures appeared in the surroundings to watch. How bold! Someone actually dares to make a move in Hong City. That young man at the auction. As expected, someone has become greedy and wants to steal the treasure. Looks like he's kicked an iron plate. That young man's battle power is so strong. It's too terrifying. He's even stronger than a peak-tier king. In the night, there were sounds of discussion. Someone recognized Lu Ming. There were even people who were greedy for Lu Ming. At that moment, they were secretly glad that they did not make a move. Otherwise, they would only be dead. The black shadow was extremely fast, but Lu Ming was faster. He caught up with it in a few steps. Die! A ray of spear light flashed past. The figure's angry roars were useless, and he was nailed to the ground. In a flash, Lu Ming devoured the blood essence of the 3 people and kept their storage rings. He then left the place. Not long after, Lu Ming appeared 200 miles away. He found a place with no one and entered the Supreme Shrine. No one would be able to find him in the Supreme Shrine. I wonder who sent someone to assassinate me. Qin Qingfei? The first person that came to Lu Ming's mind was Qin Qingfei. He had already changed his residence temporarily, but he had been found in just a few minutes. It could be seen how powerful the person behind the scenes was. Of course, he could not rule out other people. There was a flash of killing intent in Lu Ming's eyes. He then shook his head. He was leaving tomorrow anyway and he could not be bothered to add to the trouble. Then, he closed his eyes and started cultivating. Not long after, Qin Qingfei's angry roar could be heard from his main hall. "What? After killing Jiuai Ingsen, we lost track of that brat. Trash, all of them are trash." Qin Qingfei roared. "Second young master, that brat's battle power is far above our estimation. I'm afraid he's not weaker than a peak-tier king. In fact, he might even be a bit stronger than ordinary peak-tier kings," the middle-aged man said with a frown. Qin Qingfei took a deep breath. His eyes were extremely cold. "Looks like I'll have to ask Big Brother for help." The second young master wants to invite the first young master. The middle-aged man was shocked. "That's right. That kid wants to use the inter-province transportation formation? Naive." Qin Qingfei sneered and left his residence. Chapter 594. 594 Peerless Heaven's Pride. Time passed quickly, and in the blink of an eye, the sky was bright. Lu Ming sent a message to Flying Snow and then headed in the direction of the inter-province transportation array. Lu Ming saw Flying Snow outside the hall. "Brother Lu, I've received news that you were assassinated last night. I've been trying to send you messages, but I couldn't get them out. I thought something had happened to you." Fei Shui asked worriedly when she saw Lu Ming. It seemed that Fei Shui had received the news last night. "They're just a few clowns, it's no big deal." Lu Ming smiled. He had been in the Supreme Shrine for the rest of his life, so his jade voice transmission talisman naturally could not transmit any messages. Fei Shui's beautiful eyes glowed. She had received news that the assassin was not a clown, but someone with extremely powerful cultivation. Later, based on the corpse, she had determined that it was the famous triple phantom kills. To be able to escape the assassination of the 3 phantom kills and even kill it, one could imagine the combat strength of the person. Fei Shui was even more curious. Was Lu Ming really from the Tianxian region? As far as she knew, only the Saint Planet on the list of top 1,000 talents in the Tianxian region could have such battle strength. "Lady Flying Snow, let's go to the interdomain teleportation array," Lu Ming said. "N." Fei Shui nodded and brought Lu Ming to the interprovince transportation formation. After passing through Tulivir checkpoints, they arrived at a huge square. From afar, there was a huge altar-like building in the center of the square. It was the inter-province transportation formation. There were rows of soldiers in metal armor standing guard around the altar. Of course, these soldiers were not ordinary soldiers. Each one of them exuded a powerful aura. Most of them were at the peak level 6 Martial King realm, and some of them were even king tiers in the upper tier. This is an important place, what are you doing here? With a cold shout, a middle-aged man appeared in front of the two. Lu Ming's eyes flickered. This middle-aged man was Qin Qingfei's 8th uncle, the one who had appeared last time. I'm here to take the inter-province transportation formation. Lu Ming said. You're still here. Didn't I tell you last time that there are no more spots? Hurry up and leave. The middle-aged man said as he waved his hand. I have my own quota. Lu Ming took out the spiritual zone teleportation token. What? The middle-aged man's eyes darkened when he saw the territory crossing token in Lu Ming's hand. With the token, as long as one's identity was clear, they could take the inter-province transportation formation. He had no reason to stop them. So you managed to bid for a territory crossing token. All right, you're qualified to take the territory crossing teleportation array. Which domain you're going to, you can't go more than 20 domains away from the Hong domain. The middle-aged man said. The Tianxian region. Lu Ming said. Tianxian region? The middle-aged man frowned and said, Sure, go up. The middle-aged man waved his hand. Wait a moment. At this moment, a gloomy voice sounded. Qin Qingfei. Upon hearing this voice, Lu Ming's eyes turned cold and he turned around. Two young figures were rapidly approaching. One of them was Qin Qingfei. The other person was wearing a green robe. He was tall and had a cold expression. He emitted a cold and terrifying aura. Qin Qingshan. Fei Shui suddenly let out a cry of surprise. Her beautiful eyes looked at the green-robed man in shock. Qin Fei, Qingshan, why have you come? When the middle-aged man saw Qin Qingfei and the other man, he smiled and went up to them. 8th uncle, my big brother and I came here to capture a bold man. Qin Qingfei laughed coldly. He looked at Lu Ming and shouted, Lu Ming, how dare you steal from the treasury of the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace and steal a large number of esoteric crystals? Kneel down and wait for your punishment. I've stolen from the treasury? Which eye of yours saw that? Lu Ming sneered. Is there a need to look? The intent crystals you took out were all lost in the treasury of the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace. There are still some in your storage ring. Hurry up and take them out to check. Qin Qingfei shouted. Chapter 595. 595 The inter-province transportation formation is destroyed. Come on. If you can defeat me, I don't mind staying. A powerful aura soared into the sky, breaking through Qin Qingshan's pressure in one go. That's right, Qin Qingshan's ranking was one rank lower than sacred constellations. If even Qin Qingshan couldn't be defeated, then even if they returned to Tianxian region, they most likely wouldn't be a match for sacred constellation. Then what difference would it make if they returned or not? If you have the guts, let me see what capital you have. An extremely cold intent spread out from Qin Qingshan's body. The surrounding temperature dropped rapidly, and a layer of ice even formed on the ground. Ice concept. What Qin Qingshan had comprehended was the ice concept. Buzz. An ice-cold blade light rushed out of Qin Qingshan's body. It was incomparably cold as it slashed towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming clenched his fist in the air. A long spear condensed and he thrust it forward. This spear attack only contained the intent of wind and fire. Boom! The saber radiance and the spear radiance collided with each other. The force shot out in all directions. Ice and fire filled the air, and the wind howled. Kacha kacha! The armored soldiers moved their bodies and stood in a row. Their bodies emitted rays of true essence light, which offset all the scattered qi. Qin Qingfei retreated rapidly, avoiding the rapid qi. As for Fei Shui, She took a few steps back and dodged the force. Her beautiful eyes were fixed on the field. As for Qin Qingfei's eighth uncle, he took 2 steps back and blocked the force. After the explosion, Lu Ming and Qin Qingshan did not move at all. So you've comprehended 2 intents. Interesting. Take this, proud snow ice blade slash. The Qin Qingshan shouted coldly. An even more powerful blade light burst out and slashed at Lu Ming. This was a blade light that was completely condensed with intent and true essence. It was bone-chilling, and wherever the blade light passed, snow-white ice crystals appeared in the space. This blade was stronger than the previous one. Boom! At this moment, Lu Ming's body was surrounded by flames. In the flames, there were traces of lightning. Outside the lightning, the wind was whistling. Wind, fire, and thunder, all 3 intents erupted at the same time. True Dragon Strike. A 3-colored true dragon roared and flew out, clashing with the icy saber radiance. Instantly, intent realm filled the air and true essence began to abuse him. On Qin Qingshan's side, waves of cold air spread out, forming a thick layer of ice crystals on the ground. On Lu Ming's side, the concept of 3 colors was raging. This move once again ended in a draw. 3 intents! He exclaimed. Qin Qingshan's face was extremely gloomy. As for Qin Qingfei, Fei Shui, and the others, they were all dumbfounded. Lu Ming's strength had exceeded their expectations. Not bad, you can make me serious. Qin Qingshan's voice resounded. His palm glowed, and a battle saber that was suffused with an incomparably cold intent appeared in his hand. Is it just serious? Lu Ming's lips curled into a sneer. The wind lightning spear appeared in his hands. A surging fighting spirit rose and a ray of spear light soared into the sky. Proud snow 8 slashes. The Qin Qingshan shouted softly. His body brought with it a gust of cold wind as he pounced toward Lu Ming. A snow-white and icy blade light burst out from Qin Qingshan's hand. After the first slash, the second slash followed. Saber after saber, the power was incomparably terrifying. At this moment, the vital essence in Lu Ming's body was also boiling. His strong 7th-grade body also burst out. Combined with the 3 concepts, it turned into a dazzling spear light and blasted out. Boom! Boom! The 2 figures collided with each other. The saber and spear lights bombarded each other wantonly. The sky and the earth trembled slightly under the collision of the 2, as if they could not withstand the power of the 2. The 2 of them fought from the ground to the sky, exchanging dozens of moves in an instant. Buzz! Buzz! Then, the 2 of them separated and stood on opposite sides of the void. Qin Qingshan's eyes were incomparably gloomy. His killing intent was like a storm. He was a top talent on the list of top 1,000 talents in the Eastern Barren Territory. Throughout history, he was the only one who could defeat someone of a higher level. Now, Lu Ming, who was only at the peak of the 9th level of the Martial King realm, had challenged him, and he could not even win easily. If this were to spread, his reputation would definitely be greatly reduced. He couldn't bear this. Therefore, he decided that he would not only stop Lu Ming today, but he would also take his life. He could only redeem his reputation by killing Lu Ming. Kill! Qin Qingshan roared, his aura growing stronger. Buzz! However, at this moment, the regional teleportation formation's altar not far away emitted a bright light. Countless rays of light gathered in the air and formed a huge vortex. A figure suddenly appeared on the altar. This man looked to be in his 30s. His long hair was loose and he was wearing a gray robe. A large wine gourd hung from his waist. Boom, boom, boom. When this man appeared, the vortex in the sky didn't disappear. Instead, it shook violently and let out a violent rumble. Nest, didn't I just eat one of your eggs? Is there a need to chase after me? The man muttered. But the next moment, a violent roar came from the vortex. A claw covered in scales reached out from the vortex and grabbed at the man. The man's figure flashed and he flew down the altar. Bang! The claw slammed onto the altar. The altar rumbled and then exploded, sending gravel flying everywhere. As soon as the altar shattered, the vortex shrank rapidly. An unwilling roar came from the vortex, and the claw covered in scales also retracted and disappeared. The inter-province transportation formation is destroyed. It seems like I have to travel by myself. I thought I could be lazy. The muscular man muttered as he picked up the wine gourd at his waist and took a few gulps. At the scene, everyone was staring at this man in shock. Who was this man? Why did he suddenly appear? More importantly, the inter-province transportation formation was destroyed because of him. How did this happen? Lu Ming's pupils enlarged rapidly. He could not accept it. The interdomain teleportation formation was destroyed. How was he going to return? Half a year's time was up. Someone destroyed the inter-province transportation formation. Attack and capture this person. Qin Qingfei's eighth uncle suddenly reacted and let out a hysterical roar. He was in charge of the inter-province transportation formation. Now that it was destroyed in front of him, he couldn't escape punishment. The hundreds of soldiers at the scene moved and surrounded the man. Hundreds of powerful auras converged, and it was terrifying. The weakest of these hundreds of people was at Lever's 6 Martial King realm, and more than 50 of them were king tiers of the upper tier. Even a peak king tier would have to retreat in fear when faced with such a force. However, the muscular man did not seem to see it. He picked up the wine gourd and began to drink again. Speak, who are you? Why did they destroy the interdomain teleportation formation of the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace? Tell me the truth, and I'll leave you with an intact corpse. Qin Qingfei's eighth uncle berated. Chapter 596. 596 The Great Battle with Qin Qingshan. I say, brother, you don't look very old, but you're old and blind. This altar was clearly destroyed by that claw. What does it have to do with me? The muscular man said. After he finished speaking, he took a few more sips of wine. He was unruly and wild. Nonsense. You're the one who attracted that claw. No, I suspect that you're using a smokescreen. You're the one who condensed it. Now, surrender. Qin Qingfei's eighth uncle shouted. The robust man's eyes swept around, and he actually laughed. It seems that you have a good show to watch here. Come on, let's do it one by one. When you're done, we can talk about my business. Then, he took out a chair, sat down, and drank a few more mouthfuls of wine. Good wine, it's really good wine. Do you guys want a few sips? It's free. The robust man looked around and said, Playing the fool. Attack and take him down. Qin Qingfei's eighth uncle roared. Kill! Kill! Hundreds of iron-armored soldiers shouted, and their momentum was like a rainbow. Hundreds of powerful Zhenyuan converged and actually formed a huge palm, which grabbed at the robust man. This was a combined attack. With hundreds of soldiers working together, even a peak-tier king would be suppressed without any chance of escape. However, the muscular man did not even bat an eyelid. He opened his mouth and took another sip of wine. Then, a drop of wine flew out. The muscular man flicked the drop of wine with his finger, and it flew towards the huge palm in the sky. There was no sound at all, but a shocking scene appeared. When the drop of wine touched the huge palm dissipated without a sound. Everyone's eyes widened in shock. A drop of wine could easily destroy the joint attack of hundreds of armored soldiers. What kind of cultivation was this? Spiritual Ocean Tier, you're a powerful being of the Spiritual Ocean Tier. Qin Qingfei's eighth uncle shouted in shock. The muscular man did not comment and did not answer. He took 2 more sips of wine and said, Continue with your business. When you're done, we can talk about my business. Qin Qingfei's eighth uncle's expression was uncertain. He took out a jade talisman and sent out a few messages. Then he said to Qin Qingshan, Qingshan, quickly capture that brat. I've already sent a message to the palace master and the others. They'll be here soon. All right. Qin Qingshan nodded and looked at Lu Ming again. Lu Ming, I didn't expect that there would be an expert like you in the Tianxian region other than the Saint Planet. Now that the inter-province transportation formation has been destroyed, You can't return to the Tianxian region. Let's have a good fight. Qin Qingshan's fighting spirit soared to the sky, and the blade light became even more resplendent. Lu Ming's gaze was fixed in the direction of the altar, feeling a little indignant. The altar had been destroyed. It seemed that he would not be able to return in a short period of time. Then he looked at Qin Qingshan and said with determination, "If you want to fight, I'll accompany you." "All right, I'll show you my peak combat strength, ice transformation technique," Qin Qingshan shouted. In the next moment, an even colder aura spread out from his body. His entire body seemed to become transparent, as if he had turned into a block of profound ice. Even his hair had turned white. However, his aura had become even more powerful. Tianxian region? The man's eyes lit up when he heard the words, Tianxian region. He looked at Lu Ming with interest. "Fight." Lu Ming held the long spear in his hand, his long hair flying in the wind, and his aura was imposing. Without saying anything else, Lu Ming took a step forward. His long spear emitted a dazzling light and expanded rapidly, becoming as huge as a mountain, blasting towards Qin Qingshan. Break! Then it was the second and third step. With 3 steps, the space exploded, and the blade light scattered in the air. Whoosh! Qin Qingshan became one with his saber and pounced toward Lu Ming like a ray of saber light. Boom! The two of them crashed into each other. Their bodies retreated slightly before they crashed into each other again. At this moment, Qin Qingshan was much stronger than before. The blade light whistled and unceasingly swept toward Lu Ming. Lu Ming wielded his spear like a dragon. The long spear danced in the air, and the dragon's roars reverberated as he engaged in an intense battle with Qin Qingshan. However, Lu Ming was slowly falling into a disadvantageous position. A Peak King was also known as a half-step Sea of Soul Realm expert. He was only half a step away from the Sea of Soul Realm and was extremely powerful. In terms of combat strength, a Peak King tier was 2 levels stronger than a Peak Level 9 Martial King. As for Qin Qingshan, he was a peerless heaven's favorite to begin with, and he could fight against opponents 2 levels above him. Qin Qingshan could kill an ordinary Peak-tier king with a single move. Although Lu Ming was strong, his cultivation was only at the peak of the 9th level of the Martial King realm. He was still suppressed by Qin Qingshan. However, it would not be easy for Qin Qingshan to defeat Lu Ming. In the blink of an eye, dozens of moves had passed. Although Lu Ming was at a disadvantage, he still managed to withstand the attacks. Is this the talent on the list of top 1,000 talents in the Eastern Barren Territory? It is indeed powerful. Lu Ming's mind was racing. Brat, do you want me to inscribe an inscription for you to use True Yuan? Dandan whispered in Lu Ming's ear. No need. Lu Ming responded. His cultivation had been improving too quickly during this period of time. It could be described as crazy. His power had increased too quickly. It wasn't so easy to control it completely. He needed some time to adapt and get used to it. Now, he could use Qin Qingshan to train his own power so that he could control it perfectly. The battle continued, but at this moment, 3 figures appeared silently, exuding a terrifying aura. Palace Master, Vice Palace Master Qin, Vice Palace Master Wang, you're here. This is the person who destroyed the teleportation altar. Qin Qingfei's 8th uncle was overjoyed when he saw the 3 of them. He flew over and bowed respectfully. The person in the lead was an old man with white hair but a ruddy complexion. He was the palace master of the Hongyu sub-palace of the Ditian Divine Palace. The other 2 were middle-aged. One was a burly middle-aged man and the other was a middle-aged woman. The 3 of them had extremely gloomy expressions as they looked at the muscular man. However, when the palace master of the Great Domain Sub-Palace saw the strong man, his expression changed abruptly. He was a little surprised and a little reverent. How dare you destroy the interdomain teleportation array of the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace? Tell me, who are you? On the side, the middle-aged man looked at the robust man with a gloomy expression and scolded. Vice Palace Lord Qin, don't be rude. The white-haired palace master suddenly called out. The others were stunned and looked at the White Hair Palace master in confusion. "Ha, oh Lord Yen, why have you come to the Hong domain?" The White Hair Palace master came to the man's side, bowed and smiled. The robust man drank a mouthful of wine and said, I do. Lu Ming said hurriedly. He had seen how the white-haired palace master and the others were respectful to this man. This man must have an extraordinary identity. Perhaps he really had a way. Lu Ming could only hold on to a glimmer of hope. "Senior, wait for me." Lu Ming called out and flew towards flying snow. Fei Shue's beautiful eyes were filled with radiance. Lu Ming's power had exceeded her expectations. If he could fight against Qin Qingshan at the 9th level of the Martial King Realm, then Lu Ming would be even stronger when he reached the peak of the King Realm. He would probably be able to fight against the top 700 or 800 on the list of top 1,000 talents. "Lady Flying Snow, I'm leaving. I'm indebted to you for your help during this period of time. This is for you." Lu Ming took out a storage ring and passed it to Fei Shui. Fei Shui took it subconsciously. "We'll meet again." Lu Ming cupped his fists and flew towards the muscular man. The muscular man waved his hand and a stream of essential core wrapped around Lu Ming. He shouted, "Let's go." The next moment, Lu Ming and the muscular man disappeared. Fei Shui's mind entered the storage ring and her eyes flashed. 2,000 gold intent crystals lay quietly in the storage ring, exuding a strong intent. "Brother Lu." Fei Shui looked up and saw that Lu Ming had already disappeared. "Father, who is that person? Are we just going to let him go after destroying the inter-province transportation formation?" Qin Qingshan asked Vice Palace Lord Qin. Deputy Palace Lord Qin pondered for a moment and looked at the white-haired Palace Lord. The white-haired Palace Master nodded and said, "You're right, he is Yen Kuangtu." "What?" Everyone else at the scene widened their eyes in shock. Lu Ming's vision blurred. The next moment, he was shocked to find that he had arrived outside Great City. Fast, so fast that it was unbelievable. "Kid, where are you from in the Tianxian region?" The muscular man sized Lu Ming up curiously. "I'm from the Cloud Emperor Mountain Range in the eastern part of the Tianxian region." Lu Ming said. "The eastern part of the Tianxian region. What a coincidence. I'm also from the eastern part of the Tianxian region. Time really flies. In the blink of an eye, I haven't returned to the Tianxian region for decades. This time, I heard that something had happened to the ancient barren city, so I went back to take a look." The muscular man took a few sips of wine and looked to the east. "Ancient desolate city?" Lu Ming's eyes flashed, but he did not say much. After pondering for a moment, Lu Ming cupped his fists and said, "Senior, I wonder when we will return to the Tianxian region?" "Oh, what's the rush? I don't mind having a few drinks with you for a while." The man laughed and landed on a hill outside Hong City. Then he casually sat on the ground and took out the roasted meat from his storage ring and began to eat. Lu Ming had no choice but to sit at the side. It'll be easier to travel after eating and drinking to your heart's content. Come, have a mouthful too. The muscular man threw the wine gourd to Lu Ming. Chapter 598. 598 Tearing Through Space. Lu Ming reached out to take it and took a sip. However, Lu Ming's expression changed when he took a sip of the wine. He felt that the mouthful of wine had turned into a raging flame that was burning in his stomach. Boom, boom, boom. Immediately after, the mouthful of wine transformed into waves of terrifying and scorching energy that crashed around in Lu Ming's body like stormy waves. From the outside, one could see that Lu Ming's body was expanding rapidly as if he would explode at any time from this energy. Too powerful, this energy was too powerful. It was rare for the man to look at Lu Ming with a serious expression. If Lu Ming could not withstand it, he would help. Devour. At this moment, Lu Ming let out a low growl. A powerful devouring force was emitted from his spine, devouring all the boundless energy in his body. Lu Ming sat cross-legged and circulated the true war dragon technique at full force to refine it. Half an hour later, Lu Ming heaved a long sigh and opened his eyes. A flash of lightning flashed across his eyes, filled with a terrifying aura. Such pure and majestic energy. Lu Ming was secretly amazed. He felt that the energy from that mouthful of wine was more terrifying than the energy from refining millions of top-grade spirit crystals. If it was not for the fact that Lu Ming's intent realm had not broken through, he felt that he could use the energy from that mouthful of wine to break through to Peak-tier King. Of course, this was just an illusion. He couldn't break through to Peak-tier King realm with just a few million supreme-grade spirit crystals. However, Lu Ming's essential core had become thicker and purer. It had reached its limit. A mouthful of wine had more terrifying energy than millions of top-grade spirit crystals. Lu Ming was shocked. He had seen the muscular man gulping down the wine. Not bad, not bad. You've refined a mouthful of my wine in only half an hour. It's my first time to meet a little guy like you. The muscular man looked at Lu Ming in shock. Many thanks for Senior's wine. Lu Ming said. Do you want a few more mouthfuls? The muscular man said. No, I don't want it. Lu Ming waved his hands repeatedly. His intent realm had not broken through yet, so drinking it would be a waste. I'm Lu Ming. How should I address you, Senior? Lu Ming asked after a moment of silence. Me? Yen Kuang-tu, I wonder if you've heard of it? The robust man said with a slight smile. What? You're Yen Kuang-tu? Lu Ming's eyes widened in shock. Yen Kuang-tu was a name that not many people in the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace did not know. This was especially true for the Ditian Divine Guards of the Tianxian region. Yen Kuang-tu's entire life was a legend. Yen Kuang-tu came from a humble background. He came from an unknown small village in the eastern part of the Tianxian region. However, with his unparalleled talent, he grew up from a young man in a small mountain village, step by step, and finally became a rare heaven's favorite in the Tianxian region. Later, he was even valued by the Supreme Lord of the Nine Suns and accepted as a disciple. After being taken in as a disciple by the Nine Suns Paragon, he displayed an even more terrifying talent. Countless geniuses and demon-level geniuses were all suppressed by him. He stepped on all the geniuses and rose up, becoming a peak expert of the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace. It was said that Yen Kuang-tu's cultivation was no longer weaker than his master, the Nine-Yang Supremacy. This legendary person was standing in front of Lu Ming alive and well. Lu Ming had the most special feelings. This was because the remnant soul of the Nine Suns Supreme Being was currently in the Supreme Shrine. The Nine Suns Supremacy could be considered as half of Lu Ming's master. Without the Nine Suns Supremacy, Lu Ming would not be where he was today. Since Yen Kuang-tu was the disciple of the Nine Suns Supreme, Lu Ming felt closer to him. Should I tell Yen Kuang-tu about the Nine Suns Supreme? No, I can't say it. This matter involves too many people. I can't take the risk. A thought flashed across Lu Ming's mind, but he immediately rejected it. First of all, this matter was too outrageous. Also, Yen Kuang-tu was now valued by Martial Emperor. What if he was on his side? If he said it, wouldn't he be courting death? Lu Ming decided not to say anything. At least, he would not say anything before he was powerful enough. So it's Senior Yen. Senior's name reverberates like thunder in my ears. Lu Ming gathered his thoughts and cupped his fists in a salute. Ha, you're welcome. All right, I'll take you back to the Tianxian region now. Yen Kuang-tu laughed. Go back? How do we go back from here? Lu Ming was full of doubts. Of course we're flying back. Yen Kuang-tu smiled. In the next moment, a terrifying aura emanated from his body. This aura was even more majestic than the vast ocean, as deep as the universe. The moment this aura appeared, Yen Kuang-tu immediately retracted it. However, Lu Ming was still shocked. He felt that in front of this aura, peak-tier kings were like ants or dust. At this moment, Dandan shrank her head back in fear, her palms grabbing Lu Ming's shoulders tightly. Voila! Yen Kuangtu stretched out his hand and drew a line in the air. The space was torn apart like a piece of paper, revealing a deep, pitch-black spatial crack. Let's go! Yen Kuangtu grabbed Lu Ming's arm and stepped into the spatial crack. In an instant, Lu Ming felt the world spinning around him. It was pitch black all around him and he could not see anything. After a while, the sky suddenly brightened. Lu Ming realized that they had appeared in the sky above a vast mountain range. Then, Yen Kuangtu stretched out his hand and drew a line in the air. The space cracked open again. Yen Kuangtu brought Lu Ming along and stepped into the spatial crack. He tore through space. He was tearing through space. If one's strength had not reached an unbelievable realm, it would be extremely difficult to do so. Lu Ming was extremely shocked. Not long after, they appeared above another lake. Yen Kuangtu continued to tear through space. This process repeated as they headed towards the Tianxin region. Tianxin region, Tianxin city. These days, it was extremely lively. Everywhere was decorated with lanterns and colored banners, and the atmosphere was joyous. This was because the number one genius of the Tianxin region, Saint Xingqian, the top one on the list of top 1,000 talents of the Eastern Barren Territory, was about to marry the daughter of the Tianxin sub-palace master. Countless people from all over the Tianxin region came to congratulate him. In the past few days, Tianxin city's city gates had been opened wide, and everything was free of charge. On the first level of Tianxin city, there was a huge square. Thousands of tables had already been set up. Today was the wedding day of Mulan and the sacred constellation. Many people were heading towards the square. Those who could enter here were all famous people in the Tianxin region. Ordinary people did not have the qualifications to enter. At the edge of the square, on a pavilion, Mu Shuyuan and the palace master of the Eastern Palace, Mu Zheng, stood side by side, looking at the lively crowd below. Sigh, it seems that nothing can be changed. Lan, that girl wanted to resist, but in the end, she still ended up like this. Mu Zheng sighed. Lu Ming has disappeared for half a year. I wonder why? Many people in the outside world are saying that Lu Ming is afraid and knows that he's no match for the sacred constellation, so he's hiding. I don't believe this at all. With Lu Ming's personality, even if he's no match for the sacred constellation, he'll still fight. Mu Shuyuan said, "There's too little time. It's true that it'll be difficult for Lu Ming to defeat the sacred constellation. It's good that he didn't appear. It's also good for Lu Ming." Mu Zheng sighed. Chapter 599. 599 Lu Ming is hiding. What? At this moment, Mu Zheng and Mu Xiuyuan's eyes looked outside. In the sky, a few figures slowly approached. Big brother and second brother are here. Xiuyuan, let's go out. Mu Zheng pulled Mu Shuyuan and similarly stepped into the air to meet those people. Greetings, big brother, second brother. Mu Zheng called out. One of the two people in front was an old man with a head full of white hair, and the other was a burly man who looked to be in his 50s. That burly man in his 50s was Mu Zheng's elder brother, Mu Lan's father, and the current palace master of the Heaven Mystic Palace, Mu Tian. The white-haired old man was Mu Zheng's second brother, Mu. The age of martial arts powerhouses could not be distinguished by appearance. Mu Tian, for example, was the oldest. However, he looked like he was only in his 50s. This was because his cultivation was the most profound and he had already broken through to the spirit ocean realm. Thus, he looked the youngest. As for Mu Yi and Mu Zheng, they both looked like old men. Greetings, eldest uncle, second uncle. Mu Shuyuan stepped forward and bowed. Mu Shuyuan's father was the fifth child, but he had died in battle in his early years. Yes, let's go up and sit. Mu Tian nodded and walked up to the platform. At the top of the square, there was a row of high platforms, specially for people of status to sit on. After they sat down, they began to chat. Sixth brother, I heard that Lu Ming is from your Eastern Palace. He was very arrogant before and actually challenged the sacred constellation. Now, he's gone into hiding with his tail between his legs. Mu Yi looked at Mu Zheng and said with a faint smile. Second brother, Lu Ming, is most likely held up by something. He might not be in hiding. The rumors from the outside world cannot be trusted. Mu Jing said. Hee, is that so? I heard that Lu Ming challenged the sacred constellation because of Lan. Young man, you really don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. You don't have a clear understanding of your own status. Is Lan worthy of you? Even if he has some talent, does my Mu clan lack talented youths? The sacred constellation is a supreme chosen. Mu Yi said with a cold smile. Even if they were brothers by blood, there would still be competition and discord. Mu Yi and Mu Jing had always been at odds with each other. Thus, Mu Yi would not let go of any opportunity to attack Mu Jing. Second uncle, I don't think so. Lu Ming is not an ordinary genius. Give him a few years and he'll definitely be on the list of top 1,000 talents. Mu Xiao Yuan interjected. Get on the list of top 1,000 talents? How ignorant, is it that easy to get onto the list of top 1,000 talents? Just based on a kid who came from the eastern mountain area? Young people are really whimsical. All right, the elders are talking, don't interrupt. Mu Yi chided softly, his voice filled with faint disdain. Mu Xiuyuan's expression was a little ugly, but he didn't continue to speak. Big brother has good eyes. Sheng Xingchen, born from the Sheng clan, is a match for our Mu clan. Furthermore, he has unparalleled talent and is a peerless genius. He's a perfect match for Landa. Mu laughed. Mu Tian only nodded slightly and did not say much. Mu Yi continued. The key is that the forces on the side of the sacred constellation's mother are too strong. As long as we can get close to them after Lan and the sacred constellation are married, our Mu family will be able to develop steadily. We'll be impregnable. Mu Zheng's expression changed slightly upon hearing this. It became slightly grave. Indeed, Sheng Xingchen's mother had an extremely great background. She came from the main palace of the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace and was the direct descendant of an extremely powerful clan. Although their Mu clan was extremely powerful in the Tianxian region, they were nothing when compared to the power of the main palace of the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace. The main palace of the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace was the core of the palace. The sacred constellation was not only terrifyingly talented, but it also had a terrifying background. Lu Ming was far inferior compared to it. In a huge mansion in the 4th district of Tianxian City. This was the Sheng family's residence. At this moment, a group of people gathered at the entrance of the mansion and chatted. I wanted to see Lu Ming being tortured by the young master of stars. I didn't expect that guy to hide and not dare to meet anyone. That's right. To think that I've waited for half a year with such high expectations. What a coward. He only knows how to talk big and show off for a moment. I've already expected this outcome. If he doesn't hide and really challenges the young master of Xingchen, he'll definitely die. In the eyes of that kind of person, face is nothing, his life is definitely more important. These were all the heroes of the Sheng family. Some of them had even been beaten up by Lu Ming before. Naturally, they hoped that the sacred constellation could torture Lu Ming. However, they did not expect that Lu Ming would actually hide. This made them very disappointed. The young master of Xingchen has come out. Someone shouted. A few people walked out of the mansion. Sacred Constellation was dressed in a festive red robe and walked in the middle. Beside him was a middle-aged couple. They were Sacred Constellation's parents, the current rulers of the Sheng family. There was another man in his 40s. He was handsome and had a dignified aura. He was Sheng Xingchen's mother's elder brother, Sheng Xingchen's uncle. He had come from the main palace of the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace. Xingchen, go to the Mu family and welcome the bride. Your father, uncle, and I will wait for you at the banquet. The mother of the holy constellation said. Yes, mother. Sheng Xingchen nodded. Then, Saint Starlight's mother and the others stepped into the air and went to the square in the 1st district. As for the sacred constellation, it was heading towards the Mu clan. In a pavilion of the Mu family, Mulan was dressed in a bright red robe, which made her look even more charming. However, her brows were tightly furrowed, and there was not a trace of a smile on her face. Her eyes were listless and seemed a little empty. "Lu Ming, what happened to you?" Mulan said softly. Mulan knew very well that Lu Ming had gone to the weapon-forging sect. After that, news of the destruction of the weapon-forging sect spread and Lu Ming had disappeared without a trace. Mulan was very worried that Lu Ming would be in an accident. She did not believe the rumors that spread that Lu Ming was afraid of the sacred constellation and that was why he was hiding and did not dare to meet anyone. It could be said that she had watched Lu Ming grow up. She understood Lu Ming very well. He would never hide just because he was no match for her. "Lan, are you all right?" An old voice came from behind Mulan. Mulan turned around and saw an old man. She forced a smile on her face. "Grandpa." This old man was naturally Yen Lan. As Mulan's grandfather, he naturally had to attend her wedding. AI. Yen Lan let out a deep sigh when she saw Mulan's appearance. He had hoped that Lu Ming would create a miracle. Unfortunately, Lu Ming had disappeared without a trace. Mulan had resisted for more than 10 years. In the end, she had to marry someone she didn't like under her father's will. Perhaps this was fate. "Miss Mulan, young Master Xingqian is here to welcome you." A young woman walked in and said. Mulan's face revealed a sad smile. "Tell young Master Xingqian that I'll go immediately." Mulan said. "Lu Ming, where are you?" Mulan looked out of the window and let out a long sigh. She then turned around and strode out of the door. Chapter 600. 600 finally arrived. Yen Kuangtu brought Lu Ming along as they tore through space more than 20 times. Voila! When the 27th light shone into Lu Ming's eyes, Yen Kuangtu stopped. He did not continue to travel through space. "We're here." Yen Kuangtu's slightly complicated voice sounded as he looked to the east. 100 miles away, a pitch-black city stood tall, as if it had experienced the passage of time. That was Tianjin City. Lu Ming's eyes were filled with excitement. They had finally arrived at Tianjin City. At the same time, he was also secretly shocked. Traveling through space was too fast. There were 16 big domains between Hong Domain and Tianjin Domain, and many of them were larger than Tianjin Domain. And now they had arrived. It would only take about an hour. "Lu Ming, I won't be going to Tianjin City with you. I'm going to the ancient Baron City to check out the situation," Yen Kuangtu said. "Senior Yen, thank you for your help this time." Lu Ming cupped his fists and expressed his gratitude sincerely. You don't have to thank me. I destroyed the domain teleporting formation in the Grand Domain. You won't be able to come back, so of course I have to bring you back." Yen Kuangtu laughed. "Senior, I'll take my leave then." Lu Ming was in a hurry to return to Tianjin City. "Go!" Yen Kuangtu took a sip of wine and waved his hand. Lu Ming turned around and headed toward Tianjin City. It's not easy to go to Tianjin City. This kid will most likely suffer a loss if he goes. Yen Kuangtu muttered. With a wave of his hand, a ray of light flew into Lu Ming's body and disappeared. Lu Ming could not feel it at all. With a slight smile, Yen Kuangtu's figure moved and disappeared without a trace. "Dandan, inscribe the inscription of true essence explosion for me," Lu Ming said to Dandan. This time, he had to win against the sacred constellation. He could not lose. Lu Ming had to be fully prepared. All right. She started to inscribe inscriptions on Lu Ming. This time, he actually succeeded on the first try. Lu Ming felt his essential core surge and his body was filled with energy. The distance of 100 miles was covered in the blink of an eye. Lu Ming landed at the city gate and entered. As soon as he entered the city gate, he felt that something was wrong. Everywhere was decorated with lanterns and colored banners, and it was a jubilant atmosphere. Lu Ming's expression changed when he found out about it. Today was the day that Mulan and the Holy Star were getting married. I hope I can make it in time. Lu Ming rushed to the square. The square was packed with guests. At the top of the square, Mu Tian and the others sat on one side, while the parents and elders of holy constellations sat on the other. The bride and groom have arrived. A voice rang out, and everyone's eyes turned to the left side of the square. There, two figures walked over. They were Holy Star and Mulan. There was a faint smile on Sacred Constellation's face, while Mulan's face was devoid of any smile. She was as calm as still water. The two of them stepped into the center of the square. A martial artist's marriage was different from a normal person's. Ordinary people needed to bow to the heavens and the earth, but martial artists didn't. The cultivation of martial arts had always been a heaven-defying thing. Otherwise, there would not have been a lightning tribulation when he broke through to the martial king realm. Therefore, when martial artists got married, they would not worship heaven and earth. As long as they knelt down and paid respects to their elders and ancestors, the people of the Detian Divine Palace had one more thing to pray for, which was to pray to martial emperor. After these steps were completed, it would be considered an official marriage. All right, now the newlyweds will kneel down and pay respects to the parents and elders of both parties. A voice rang out. Hold on. Just as Mulan was about to kowtow to the elders of both sides on the Holy Star, a voice resounded throughout the entire place. Everyone was shocked. Who would be so bold as to disrupt the wedding ceremony between Mulan and Holy Constellation? Did they not want to live? However, some people were different. When they heard this voice, their bodies trembled. Mulan's delicate body trembled when she heard the voice. She turned around abruptly with a pleasantly surprised expression on her face. Similarly, Mu Shuyuan and Mu Jing also followed suit. Their expressions first changed, and then revealed pleasant surprise. The people of the Sheng family, on the other hand, looked gloomy. At this moment, everyone's eyes turned towards the source of the voice. A young man was walking towards the square, step by step. Lu Ming, it's Lu Ming. Suddenly, someone shouted. It's really him. Didn't he hide? Why did you appear now? It can't be that he couldn't bear to leave Miss Mulan at a critical moment, so he steeled his heart and ran out, right? It's possible. Half a year ago, when Lu Ming had challenged the Sacred Constellation, everyone thought that he had challenged the Sacred Constellation because of Mulan. They all thought that Lu Ming was interested in her. Now that it had appeared, many people would naturally think in this direction. Lu Ming, he's finally here. Mu Shuyuan muttered, his eyes filled with anticipation. Lu Ming. Mulan looked at Lu Ming. At this moment, Mulan seemed to be full of energy. Her eyes were shining. Lu Ming. Holy Star muttered, his eyes as calm as an ancient well. Lu Ming could not cause any fluctuations in him. Lu Ming. Sheng Yao and the others who had grudges with Lu Ming looked at him with a strong murderous intent in their eyes. This kid is Lu Ming? What was he trying to do? Disrupt the wedding? You're looking for death. Mu Yi shouted coldly. Under countless gazes, Lu Ming walked towards Mulan and the Sacred Constellation step by step. Then he stood more than 10 meters in front of them. Senior Sister Mulan, long time no see. Lu Ming smiled faintly. I knew you would come, kid. Mulan smiled as well. Her smile was even more radiant and charming than a flower, causing many young people to be momentarily dazed. Senior Sister Mulan, we'll catch up later. Right now, we have more important things to do. Lu Ming smiled and looked at the Sacred Constellation. Half a year has passed on the Sacred Constellation. Let's have a battle. How dare you? Who is this little bastard? How dare he disrupt Constellation's wedding? He's courting death. Men kill him. On the high platform, Saint Xingqian's mother's eyes flashed with a cold light as she shouted. Yes. Two middle-aged men rushed out and charged at Lu Ming at top speed. Boom! Two terrifying auras emanated from the two of them. Level 9 Martial King Realm. The two burly men were both Level 9 Martial King Realm experts, the top figures among the king tiers of the upper tier. Little bastard, kneel down. The two burly men ran on the ground like two giant wild beasts, causing the earth to rumble. The two of them instantly rushed to Lu Ming's sides, one on the left and one on the right, and clasped Lu Ming's shoulders. The holy star did not move, but Mulan exclaimed, "Lu Ming, be careful." However, Lu Ming did not move. He seemed to be scared silly. Bang! Bang! The two burly men grabbed Lu Ming's shoulders with precision and grabbed one of his arms with their other hand. Hee hee, you want to challenge the holy star with just this bit of strength? What a fool's dream. Mu Yi immediately sneered. This brat really overestimates his own ability. The people from Sacred Glory also sneered. But in the next moment, they could no longer laugh. Kneel down. The two burly men bellowed and their essential core exploded. They grabbed Lu Ming's shoulders and pressed him down. However, Lu Ming's posture was straight, like an ancient divine mountain, standing on the ground without moving an inch. Chapter 601. 601 Suppressing You in 3 Moves. The two burly men's expressions changed, and their eyes were filled with shock. Kneel down. The two burly men let out another explosive roar. Their bodies were suffused with blood-red light, and even their bloodlines had erupted. The powerful vital essence merged with the will of heaven and earth and pressed toward Lu Ming. However, Lu Ming still did not move. The two big men's faces turned red. Most of the people's faces changed. What are the two of you doing? Do you want to play games? Mu Jing smiled faintly and looked at Mu. Mu Yi's face darkened. Interesting. Mu Tian, who had been silent all this while, finally spoke. This little bastard. His mother in the Holy Star City gritted her teeth, and her face turned even colder. The people of Sacred Glory were dumbfounded. Sacred Constellation, is this the battle you promised me? Lu Ming looked at the sacred constellation in disdain. You want to fight me? Let's see if you have the qualifications. Holy Constellation said calmly. Is that so? Lu Ming smiled faintly. His essential core suddenly exploded and he waved his arms. Bang! The two burly men were lifted up and slammed into each other. A series of crackling sounds rang out, and the two burly men screamed in pain. It was unknown how many of their bone armors had been broken. Lu Ming swung his arms and the two burly men's bodies were thrown hundreds of meters away like two pools of mud. They lay on the ground and screamed in pain. Many people's faces changed. The two burly men were both at the early stage of the Level 9 Martial King realm. In the Tianxian region, they were definitely the top experts and overlords. However, in the hands of Lu Ming, they seemed so weak and could not resist at all. In just half a year's time, Lu Ming had actually grown to this stage? Isn't that too terrifying? A hint of surprise also flashed across Holy Constellation's eyes. Ha! This kid is not bad. He's worthy of being someone from the East. Mu Jing laughed. Before this, he had been ridiculed by Mu. Now that he had finally found a chance to counterattack, he felt very proud. I've only defeated 2 early-stage Level 9 Martial King realm cultivators. Moreover, those 2 were caught off guard and didn't even display any martial skills. What's there to be proud of? Compared to the Holy Star, I don't know how far they're from it. Mu Yi's face was dark and he snorted coldly. He's only an early Level 9 Martial King realm warrior? Hee hee, second brother's standards are really high. You don't even take a Level 9 Martial King seriously. Mu Jing said with a smile. This time, Mu Yi's face darkened and he did not speak. And now? Lu Ming stared at the sacred constellation and said only 3 words, but it made everything clear. Didn't the sacred constellation want to see if he was qualified? What about now? Too weak. Holy Constellation's reply was only 2 words, but it showed great confidence. You're avoiding the battle? Lu Ming's eyes were bright as he stared at the Holy Star. What a joke. Little bastard, you are not qualified to fight with the young master of Xingqian. If you want to fight, you have to get past me first. A cold sneer was heard as a figure stepped into the air and strolled in the air before appearing in the square. Everyone's heart trembled. There was no need to explain what it meant to walk in the air in Tianxian City. It's the sacred glory. He's going to make a move. He's an elder of the Tianxiansa Palace. That's normal. Lu Ming wants to challenge the sacred constellation today. He has to prove himself with his own abilities. Countless people were whispering in the surroundings. Many of them were powerhouses who had rushed over from other places in the Tianxian region. They had never seen Lu Ming before. At this moment, they were curiously sizing up this outstanding young man. It had been a few years since anyone from the younger generation of the Tianxian region had challenged the sacred constellation. Lu Ming's eyes fell on the sacred glory, and a sharp glint flashed in his eyes. He smiled and said, "All right, it's time to settle your score. Settle accounts with me? Little bastard, I haven't seen you for half a year. I don't know where you got your confidence from." Sacred Light sneered and stepped forward. Boom! The aura of a peak-tier king exploded forth like a vast ocean. Sheng Yao's body also floated in the air. He looked down at Lu Ming and said, 10 moves, I'll suppress you in 10 moves. If I can't suppress you in 10 moves, I'll admit defeat. Lu Ming shook his head and stretched out 3 fingers. Sheng Yao was stunned for a moment, then sneered and said, "What's wrong? If you don't have any confidence in yourself, could it be that you can only withstand 3 of my moves?" "No." Lu Ming shook his head again. 3 moves. I mean, I can defeat you within 3 moves. Otherwise, I'll admit defeat and leave. As soon as he said that, the entire place boiled. Lu Ming actually said that he could suppress the sacred glory within 3 moves. How was that possible? Crazy, he was definitely crazy. I thought he was a top figure, but it turns out he's just a hothead who overestimates himself. Does he know what peak-tier king tiers mean? Mu Yi sneered. Mu Shuyuan and Mu Zheng were also a little puzzled. They could not believe that Lu Ming could suppress the sacred glory in 3 moves. On the high platform, Mu Tian and Sheng Xingshan's uncle, Sheng Xingshan's father, the current head of the Sheng family, Sheng Tsang, also shook their heads slightly. With their cultivation, they could naturally tell that Lu Ming's cultivation was at the peak of the 9th level Martial King realm. Was it possible for a level 9 Martial King to defeat a peak king in 3 moves? Suppress me in 3 moves? Ha! Sheng Yao laughed wildly as if he had heard something funny. But the next moment he could no longer laugh. Lu Ming's body seemed to have lost its weight. He was suspended in the air and flew to the same position as the sacred glory, standing opposite it. The entire place fell silent. He's hovering in the air. He's hovering in Tianxian City. Could it be that Lu Ming has already broken through to the peak-tier king tier? Someone cried out in shock. No, it's a peak level 9 Martial King. Lu Ming has comprehended the will of the wind, which is why he can fly. However, his combat strength is probably close to a peak level 9 Martial King. Unbelievable! He can actually fight against a peak-tier king? How long has it been? He's so young. Everyone present was shocked. Mu Yi was dumbstruck, while Mu Zheng and Mu Xiuyuan were stunned for a moment before they burst out laughing. On the square, sacred constellation raised an eyebrow for the first time, showing a hint of interest. However, he was only interested in it. He was still confident. However, Sacred Light's face was completely gloomy. Lu Ming could actually hover in the sky above Tianxian City. In a sense, Lu Ming was already on the same level as him. Make your move. Use your strongest unique skill. Otherwise, you won't have the chance. Lu Ming said. His voice was calm but full of confidence. Arrogant. Sacred Light shouted, and his aura burst out. He suddenly attacked. A huge flaming hand, completely formed by the flaming sword Qi, was a few meters long and wide. It was shockingly powerful as it came crashing down on Lu Ming. At the same time, he opened his mouth and a ring of dazzling flames flew out. It expanded rapidly and became a few meters in diameter. It was filled with crimson flames and bombarded Lu Ming. The 2 attacks were as powerful as lightning, and the space was boiling from the heat. Below, more than a dozen elders of the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace waved their hands, and true origin spread out, forming a true origin barrier that isolated the area below. Chapter 602. 602 Chapter 602 Abusing Sacred Glory. As soon as the sacred glory was launched, it displayed a thunderous attack, hoping to suppress Lu Ming in one blow. Small tricks. Go! Lu Ming shouted. A spear's gleam rushed out of his body and soared into the sky. Bang! The sacred glory's giant flaming palm was directly crushed by the spear radiance. Buzz! Lu Ming soared into the sky and swept his spear at the huge ring. Clang! The huge ring kept shaking, and the red flames were almost scattered. The ring made a cracking sound, and a hole was opened, flying far away. Poochie! Holy Light's face turned pale, and he spat out a mouthful of blood, retreating rapidly. How did this happen? Holy Light screamed in horror in his heart. It was simply unbelievable. The two moves that he had used almost all his strength on were easily countered by Lu Ming. Moreover, he was injured by the ring. Such combat strength was simply terrifying. Suppress! Lu Ming let out a long howl and took a step forward. His figure rushed towards the sacred glory like lightning. He looked down from above and swept his spear. The holy light roared and burst out with all its strength. It almost turned into a man of fire and struck the most powerful blow. However, it was all in vain. Under Lu Ming's spear gleam, all his attacks turned into nothing. The huge spear light hit the holy brilliance directly. The holy brilliance screamed and flew down. Stop! Lu Ming waved his hand and a primordial chi ribbon rolled up, wrapping around the holy brilliance and stopping it from falling. Then, Lu Ming's body fell and his feet stomped on the old face of the sacred glory. This kick contained the power of the 9 dragons' heaven-stomping steps. No! Holy Light roared. However, in the next moment, Lu Ming's foot accurately landed on the sacred glory's face. The sacred glory's body was like a meteorite, falling rapidly and heavily on the essential core shield below. A deafening explosion, accompanied by a blood-curdling screech and the sound of bones breaking, resounded throughout the entire area. Then, everyone saw Xingyao lying on the true essence shield like an old dead dog, twitching all over and blood flowing out of his mouth. Especially on his face, there was a clear shoe print, which almost flattened his old face. CSI! Everyone gasped and looked at Lu Ming in shock. 3 moves, it really was 3 moves. Including the last kick, it was exactly 3 moves. 3 moves. Lu Ming had really suppressed the holy brilliance in 3 moves. He had even beaten the holy brilliance half to death. This. On the high platform, Mu Zheng and Mu Xiaoyuan were also dumbstruck. Although they had hoped that Lu Ming would win, they were not very confident. After all, Lu Ming's cultivation level was only at the 4th level of the martial king realm half a year ago. It was already a miracle for him to become a late-stage king in half a year, let alone a peak-tier king. Never in their dreams did they expect that not only did Lu Ming win, but he also won so cleanly and in such an exciting way. This brat, this brat. Mu Zheng kept muttering in a low voice. He was extremely excited. How long ago? A year and a half ago, when Lu Ming had just entered the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace, he had not even reached the half-step king realm. In a short 1.5 years, Lu Ming had reached the peak of the king's realm. It was simply a miracle. There had never been such a miracle in the history of the Tianxian region. Beside Mu Zheng, Mu Yi's mouth was wide open. He was dumbfounded and his face was also filled with disbelief. Below the square, Mu Lan looked up at the young figure in the sky with great excitement. In her heart, images of the past kept flashing. He stood in front of her domineeringly and blocked everything for her. At this moment, her eyes were wet. She knew that she had made the right choice. Lu Ming strolled down and appeared in front of Xingqin. And now? It was still the same sentence. Now, did he have the right to stand in front of the holy star? Everyone's gaze followed Lu Ming's body as he moved. In the Sheng family, the young men who had grudges with Lu Ming and had even fought with him had complicated looks in their eyes. There was shock, horror, disbelief, and respect. More than half a year ago, Lu Ming was still competing with them. But more than half a year later, Lu Ming had already left them far behind. He was already able to stand in front of the Holy Star. They were far inferior to Lu Ming. They were no longer on the same level. At the thought of this, the heroes of the Sheng family were dejected. Many people had previously concluded that Lu Ming had hidden away out of fear. At this moment, they were so ashamed that their faces were red. Lu Ming did not hide out of fear. He was probably cultivating somewhere. On the high platform, Mu Tian, Sheng Tsang, and Xing Xingchen's uncle's eyes flickered slightly as they sized up Lu Ming seriously. Clearly, they had finally acknowledged Lu Ming's combat strength and were serious about it. The sacred constellation had been calm from the beginning, but now, it was as if there were stars shining in his eyes, bright and dazzling. Not bad. The sacred constellation spoke. Let's fight in the air, Lu Ming said. Then he rose into the air and appeared in the sky. The holy star emitted rays of starlight and rose into the sky as well. It appeared in the sky, facing Lu Ming. At this moment, many people's hearts were beating fast. They stared at the two young figures in the sky with wide eyes. Was Lu Ming and the sacred constellation finally going to fight? Half a year ago, Lu Ming's challenge to Saint Constellation had spread throughout Tianxian City. Some people only laughed it off when they heard it. They thought that it was a joke. Even if it was not a joke, it was impossible for Lu Ming to really challenge the sacred constellation. He was too far away and did not have the qualifications at all. Even if they were to fight, it would be a one-sided battle. The sacred constellation would probably be able to suppress Lu Ming with one palm. However, now, no one would think that the holy constellation could suppress Lu Ming with one palm. Lu Ming had just used his strength to prove that he was qualified to fight against the sacred constellation. Some people even started to worry about the holy star. Half a year ago, the sacred constellation had been at the peak of the 9th level of the martial king realm. At that time, the battle prowess of the sacred constellation was said to be no weaker than that of a peak king. However, Lu Ming was not weaker than a peak-tier king. He had suppressed a peak-tier king in 3 moves. Had the holy star broken through to peak king tier? If he had not broken through, would he be a match for Lu Ming? Everyone was staring at it. Your combat strength is not bad. Half a year ago, you might have been able to fight me. But now, the result will not change. Boom! As soon as Sacred Constellation's voice fell, a huge pillar of starlight rushed out of Sacred Constellation's body, reaching the sky and into the endless void. A powerful aura filled the air. Peak-tier king. Then, stars fell toward Lu Ming one after another, turning into swords of stars. They were like streams of light, shooting toward Lu Ming. Hundreds of streams of light covered the area and completely locked onto Lu Ming's retreat path. There was no way to avoid it. 10,000 dragon kill. Lu Ming stood still and stabbed with his spear. Hundreds of 3-colored true dragons flew out and roared as they charged at the stars. Boom, boom, boom. Like fireworks exploding, the sky was filled with resplendent lights. Chapter 604. 604. You're strong, I'm stronger. Kill. The holy star was so powerful that it filled the sky with starlight. The sword chi was like a tide, sweeping toward Lu Ming. On the holy star, whether it was the physical body, cultivation techniques, or martial techniques, they were all extremely powerful. They far surpassed ordinary geniuses, and their battle prowess was extremely terrifying. Ordinary geniuses on the same level as him couldn't even take a single move from him. Slowly, he began to suppress Lu Ming and gain the upper hand. At that moment, a storm of killing intent was brewing in the eyes of the holy star. He was determined to kill Lu Ming. He was a top talent on the list of top 1,000 talents in the Eastern Baron territory and had entered the Peak King's realm. He had wanted to fulfill his ambition and push his ranking up. But now, he was being blocked by a Peak Level 9 Martial King realm martial artist and could not even fight for a long time. If word of this got out, it would definitely be a fatal blow to his reputation. His thoughts were exactly the same as Qin Qingshan's. This was the pride of a peerless genius. Star's slashing sword. With a loud roar, the holy star body combined with the sword and slashed out with the strongest sword. This sword seemed to be able to cut down the stars in the sky, hence its name, Star's slashing sword. Gakudo path attack. Lu Ming also cast his strongest attack. Boom! The two beams of light collided in the sky like a sun exploding. It was a terrifying scene. The endless storm and Qi fell down. The true yuan that the peak-tier kings had laid down started to shake violently, and the expressions of the peak-tier kings changed as they were forced back. On the high platform, Mu Tian's eyes flickered. With a wave of his hand, a wave of true yuan spread out and covered the true yuan of more than a dozen peak-tier kings. Only then did it block the overflowing energy from above. After the explosion, the two figures quickly retreated. Lu Ming retreated 1,000 meters, while the holy constellation retreated about 500 meters. It was clear who was stronger. The two of them faced each other. Lu Ming, you're pretty strong, but it's all over for today. Boom! As soon as he finished speaking, an even stronger aura burst out of his body. He was much stronger than before. Heavens, the holy constellation is actually still hiding its strength. This is a special use of a special bloodline. Everyone's bloodline contains endless mysteries. Ordinary people can only use their bloodline to increase their combat power, but some geniuses can comprehend some mysterious things from their bloodline, such as martial techniques or secret techniques. That's the kind of person holy constellation is. Lu Ming is finished. He's even less of a match. Cries of surprise came from the surroundings. Lu Ming's gaze flickered. Previously, Qin Qingshan had done the same. He had almost turned himself into an ice man, which had greatly increased his combat strength. That was also a secret skill that he had comprehended from his bloodline. Until now, Lu Ming had not comprehended anything from the blood meridian. The bloodline of the 9 dragons could devour all things. It could also be said to be a secret skill that one would possess upon awakening. As for his second bloodline, it had always been obscured by a layer of clouds. Now, he could only see the word, suppress. It was as if there was something blocking it. Lu Ming could not observe it at all, let alone comprehend it. Lu Ming. Below, Mulan had a worried look on her face as she clutched her clothes tightly. Lu Ming, this battle is over. The holy star stepped on the air, its aura thick and powerful. Is it really over? Yes, it's time to end this. It seems like I still have to use that power. Lu Ming said softly and sighed. Boom. In the next moment, Lu Ming's aura burst out and rose rapidly. At this moment, Lu Ming's aura was wild. Everyone present was dumbfounded. Lu Ming's aura has increased too. Oh my God! And the increase is so rapid. It's even more than the increase of the sacred constellation. How terrifying! Sensing the violent essential core in his body, Lu Ming's lips curled into a cold smile. This was the explosive power of the Dandan inscription formation. Earlier on, Lu Ming had been suppressing the essential core in his body, keeping it at Lu Ming's original strength. He wanted to see how far his own strength was from the sacred constellation. The sacred constellation was indeed stronger than Qin Qingshan. How did this happen? The people from the Sheng family, Xing Qingshan's mother, Mu Yi, and the others all cried out in disbelief. This sky is forever unfathomable. Mulan let out a breath and smiled. Mu Xiao Yuan and Mu Zheng were also the same. Holy Constellation's eyes suddenly narrowed, and a hint of disbelief flashed through them. Sacred Constellation, it's time to end this battle. Battle! Lu Ming shouted, stepping on the void and slowly walking out. With every step he took, the void trembled violently. The power of the 9 dragons' heaven-stomping steps burst out. Slash! The holy stars exploded, and the battle sword was incomparably fierce, as if it could split open space. Lu Ming's first step was easily broken, but the second step's power swarmed in. When the holy star broke through the power of the second step, his expression changed slightly. He felt great pressure, but immediately the power of the third step arrived. The third step was even stronger, several times stronger than the second step. Slash! The holy star roared and slashed out with its sword. Boom! With a huge boom, Holy Constellation's body shook violently and retreated rapidly. The crowd was in an uproar. Xingqingshan had retreated, and he was at a disadvantage. Lu Ming, who was at the peak of the 9th level of the Martial King realm, had actually managed to force the sacred constellation into a disadvantageous position. No, Constellation can't lose. That little bastard, he deserves to die, he deserves to die. Mu Qing of the sacred constellation screamed with resentment. Ah! The holy star let out a long cry, its hair flying in the air and its starlight boiling. He could not stand being suppressed by Lu Ming. What are you shouting for? Your fate has already been decided. Lu Ming sneered and strode forward. Brat, let's stop here. It's enough for today's battle. Next, let's pretend to lose to sacred constellation. At this moment, a voice was heard in Lu Ming's ears. Lu Ming was stunned for a moment, then he sneered. It seemed that someone could not sit still. Lu Ming's gaze swept around. Kid, you don't have to look anymore. I'm Saint Constellation's uncle. I'll be frank with you. Saint Constellation's status isn't something you can compare with. He's not only a member of the Sheng clan, but also the bloodline of my Shang clan. You can't defeat him. Today, the one who wins must be Saint Constellation. If you defeat him, I guarantee that you will die. That voice rang out again. Lu Ming's gaze shifted to the high platform. Finally, his gaze landed on a middle-aged man with a jade crown on his head. This person was Saint Xingqian's uncle, Shangguan Wuchen. The corners of Lu Ming's lips curled into a cold smile. Laughable, truly laughable. Seeing that sacred constellation was at a disadvantage, someone jumped out and actually wanted him to lose to sacred constellation on purpose. The reason was that the holy star had some bullshit Shangguan clan's bloodline, and that her status was higher than his. Otherwise, Lu Ming would have to die. Lu Ming had never heard of such a ridiculous thing. It was simply despicable and shameless. Lu Ming would listen to him. Obviously not. Bang! Lu Ming took a step forward and the spear's gleam intensified. He used his actions to announce that he would not compromise. The first person he thought of was the middle-aged man, the uncle of the sacred constellation. Stars, attack with all your might. At this time, Shangguan Wuchen's voice rang in Holy Constellation's ears. Holy Constellation had thought that they would definitely lose today. However, at this moment, their eyes lit up and they let out a long roar. The light of the stars boiled, crossing the void and charging towards Lu Ming. The dazzling sword light was aimed at Lu Ming's head. Damn it. Chapter 606. 606. You are not worthy to be my opponent. You're looking for death. Let's see how many you can break. Shangguan muttered in his heart. He flicked his finger and another stream of essential core flew toward Lu Ming. On the other side, Mu Tian furrowed his brows. The displeasure in his eyes grew. He flicked his finger as well and a stream of qi flew out and collided with Shangguan Wuchen's qi. The two forces canceled each other out. Shangguan Wuchen's eyes turned cold and he said, Brother Mu, what do you mean by this? Brother Shangguan, don't go too far. As the palace master of the Tianxian sub-palace, I must ensure the fairness of the duel. Mu Tian transmitted his voice. Mu Tian, don't you want to marry your daughter to Xingqian? Shangguan Wuchen said coldly. That's another matter. Mu Tian transmitted his voice, his attitude unyielding. At this moment, Lu Ming took a few steps forward, crossing the void and heading toward the sacred planet. He wanted to end the battle quickly, but who knew if another burst of true essence would come? Boom, boom, boom. The 9 dragons' heaven-treading steps took 3 steps in a row, and a violent force blasted toward the holy star. Xingqingshan was seriously injured. How could he resist it? He spat out a large mouthful of blood. The other people present were all stunned, and they couldn't think straight. Previously, Lu Ming had the upper hand and was about to win. Suddenly, his combat strength was greatly reduced and he was suppressed by sacred constellation. However, Lu Ming suddenly erupted again and seriously injured sacred constellation. What was going on? Let's end this. Lu Ming muttered. He held the spear with both hands and the huge spear's gleam smashed down on the sacred constellation. Stop. This battle is considered a draw. A loud roar suddenly rang out and reverberated throughout the entire area. It was Shangguan Wu Chen's voice. A draw. Lu Ming's lips curled into a cold smile. The spear's gleam did not stop at all. Bang! This spear heavily smashed into Xing Xingqian's body. He screamed and fell to the ground like a meteorite. Finally, he heavily smashed into the True Yuan light screen like a chick falling on it, causing a large amount of blood to spray out. The True Yuan light screen trembled violently, and the holy star lay on it like a pile of mud. Although he was not dead, he did not know how many of the bones in his body had been broken. The entire place was silent, and the air seemed to have frozen. Did Lu Ming win? The stars! Shangguan Wu Ling screamed and rushed down from the stands to the side of the sacred constellation. Little bastard, how dare you hurt Xingqian so badly? Die, I want you to die. Men, skin this little bastard and throw him to the dogs. Shangguan Wu Ling let out a bitter scream. Immediately, some elders of the Sheng family burst out with powerful auras. What are you guys doing? Does the Tianxian region really belong to your Sheng family? Mu Jing stood up and shouted, his aura erupting. Sixth brother, what are you doing? This is the Sheng family's business. Why are you interfering? Mu Yi said coldly. Shut up. Shut up. Mu Jing shouted. Then he strode forward and stared at the Sheng clan. Some of the Mu clan elders who were close to Mu Jing also stood with him and stared at the Sheng clan. Mu Yi's expression was extremely gloomy. At that moment, the sacred constellation spat out another mouthful of blood and looked at Lu Ming with resentment. Sacred constellation, you've lost. You don't have the right to marry senior sister Mulan. Lu Ming stared at the sacred constellation and said slowly. Mulan's eyes were a little moist. Lu Ming, did he finally do it? He had finally defeated sacred constellation. When she was young, Mulan had said in front of sacred constellation, Mu Tian, and Sheng Tsang that she wanted to find someone to defeat sacred constellation and prove that sacred constellation was not worthy of her. She would have a better choice. At that time, Mu Tian, Sheng Tsang, and the rest had treated Mulan's words as a joke and had agreed to it. Who would have thought that such a day would come? Lu Ming, one day, I'll trample you under my feet and cut off your head. Holy Constellation stared at Lu Ming with resentment and hissed. After this battle, his reputation would hit rock bottom. Hee, Holy Constellation, I remember that half a year ago, you said that you would let me know what despair is. I would never be able to catch up to you in my entire life. How about now? Lu Ming said calmly. Half a year later, I'll let you know what despair is. You'll never be able to catch up to my footsteps. These words had been said by the sacred constellation half a year ago, and many people still remembered them. The past was still vivid in his mind. However, half a year later, not only did Lu Ming catch up to him, but he also defeated him in a domineering manner. How ironic was it when he recalled this sentence now? Holy Constellation's face was extremely gloomy, but he could not refute. Now, I'll give you a sentence. Today, I can defeat you, but in the future, you will never be able to catch up to me. From now on, you, the sacred constellation, are no longer worthy of being my opponent. Lu Ming's voice was calm, but everyone could hear his strong self-confidence and unshakable determination in his martial arts. In front of everyone's eyes, it was as if they were seeing a peerless genius, showing off his brilliance in the divine wilderness continent. Phew! Holy Constellation's chest heaved up and down rapidly, and he almost spat out another mouthful of blood. Boom! And NBSP. At this moment, A terrifying energy began to spread out, pressing down on everyone's hearts like a vast ocean. Instantly, everyone felt breathless and their hearts beat faster. They looked in shock at the place where the aura had erupted. It was Shangguan Wuchen. Shangguan Wuchen stood up with a gloomy face. The aura on his body was as deep and vast as the ocean. What future? You have no future. I told you to stop and end it in a draw. This was the best ending, but you didn't listen. You're seeking your own death. Shangguan Wuchen spoke in a gloomy voice. Every word was full of killing intent. A draw? What a joke. Do you think everyone here is a fool? Lu Ming's eyes were like lightning. He looked at Shangguan Wuchen fearlessly. He did not believe that Shangguan Wuchen would dare to lay a hand on him with so many people present. They're not fools, but in front of the Shangguan family, they have to be fools. Shangguan Wuchen sneered and stepped on the air. His words were overbearing and overbearing. The rest of the people had unsightly expressions on their faces, but when they thought of the Shangguan family's power, they all kept their mouths shut. Second brother, kill him. Kill this little bastard. Shangguan Wuling screamed. Today, you will die. Shangguan Wuchen's words were filled with killing intent. Lu Ming's pupils constricted and he felt all the hair on his body stand on end. Shangguan Wuchen was really going to kill him. Lu Ming's essential core circulated rapidly, raising his aura to the maximum, ready to break out of the encirclement. Brother Shangguan, don't go too far. At this moment, Mu Tian stood up and said in a dignified voice. A powerful aura enveloped Shangguan Wuchen. Mu Tian, what are you doing? Is your Mu family trying to go against my Shangguan family? Can you afford the price? Shangguan Wuchen looked at Mu Tian, still as domineering as ever. Big brother, don't be silly. Mu Yi said from the side. Shut up. Mu Tian coldly rebuked. Chapter 607. 607 Fighting against a spiritual ocean tier warrior. Mu Yi's face paled and he obediently shut his mouth. This is the Tianxin Sub-Palace, and I am the Palace Master. Lu Ming is the Emperor Sky Divine Guard of the Tianxin Sub-Palace. Even if Lu Ming has done something wrong, he will be dealt with by the Tianxin Sub-Palace, and it is not Brother Shangguan's turn to do anything. Mu Tian's strength was also unyielding. He had his own standards and bottom line. Moreover, he was the palace master of the profound Sky Sub-Palace. If he just watched as Lu Ming was killed by Shangguan Wuchen, how would the other Ditian Divine Guards view him? How much of his prestige could he still retain? In the future, how many people would be convinced by him? Mu Tian, are you really going to stop me? Shangguan Wuchen's face darkened. However, Mu Tian had no intention of stopping. The Mu family was able to rise rapidly in the Tianxin region, and it wasn't as if they didn't have any background. The Mu family also had some background, but he didn't want to use it unless it was absolutely necessary. Brother Mu, if you want to find an opponent, I'll accompany you. At this moment, Sheng Tsang stood up and an aura that was as deep as the ocean burst out from his body. The aura enveloped Mu Tian. Mu Tian's expression changed. He. Shangguan Wuchen sneered and continued to walk toward Lu Ming. Mu Tian's expression was a little gloomy. However, the Divine Azure was not any weaker than him. With the Divine Azure holding him back, it was difficult for him to save them. You're just a lowly, ant-like thing. You want to be on the same level as a true dragon? Even if you have such thoughts, you'll be sentenced to death. Shangguan Wuchen looked down at Lu Ming from above, his eyes full of disdain. It was obvious that he was comparing the sacred constellation to a true dragon and Lu Ming to an ant. The reason was that the blood of the Shangguan clan flowed through the holy star. Boom! With that, Shangguan Wuchen slapped Lu Ming. A palm print exuded a terrifying aura and pressed down on Lu Ming. The pressure was like a vast ocean pressing down on Lu Ming. Gakudo Path Attack. At this moment, Lu Ming exploded with all his strength, even his 9-dragon bloodline. His essence, qi, and spirit were highly concentrated, forming a dazzling spear. This shot was Lu Ming's ultimate attack. It was his strongest attack at the moment. Everyone only saw a spear radiance soaring into the sky and colliding with a palm print as vast as the sea. Then, endless light flashed. Countless pairs of eyes were wide open, staring at the sky. Lu Ming was going to take the attack of a Sea of Soul Realm expert head-on? Would he be smacked to death in one palm? Boom! With a shocking boom, the dazzling spear radiance was shattered. A figure fell to the ground like a meteor. Bang! 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 Lu Ming landed on the ground. First, he slid backward for a few hundred meters, then he took a few dozen steps back. With every step he took, the ground let out a violent roar, as if a mountain was crashing down. If it weren't for the fact that the ground of Tianxian City was extremely hard and covered with inscriptions, there would have been dozens of holes in it. After a few dozen steps, Lu Ming supported himself with the long spear and spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. His arm trembled non-stop and he could no longer feel anything. His body was in so much pain that it felt like it was about to split apart. A layer of blood seeped out of the surface of his skin. Is this the power of the spiritual ocean tier? It's indeed terrifying. Lu Ming sighed in his heart. His most powerful attack could easily kill normal peak tier kings, but he was still heavily injured after taking a Sea of Soul Realm attack. It was said that Yan Kuangtu was a completely lawless man. Once, a super family had provoked him, and he had directly killed his way to the family, almost exterminating them. In the end, Martial Emperor Di did not punish him. The strength of that super family was even stronger than their Shangguan family. The more he thought about it, the paler his face became, and he couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. Lord Yen, what wind blew you here? Mu Tian flew up to the sky and cupped his fists in greeting. Although Mu Tian's status was higher than Yan Kuangtu's, he was already the palace master of the Heavenly Profound Palace when Yan Kuangtu was still in the Heavenly Profound region. However, things were different now. Yan Kuangtu's status in the Heavenly Emperor Divine Palace was much higher than his. When he saw Yan Kuangtu, he had to address him as Lord. Master Yan, you haven't been back to the Tianxian region for decades, have you? I'll immediately order people to prepare a banquet to welcome you. Sheng Tsang also flew into the air and said with a smile. Hee hee. Yan Kuangtu took 2 more sips of wine and said, Sheng Tsang, don't try to get close to me. Are we that close? Sheng Tsang's face froze and he stood there awkwardly. Back in the Tianxian region, Yan Kuangtu and the Sheng clan could be said to be mortal enemies. They were even fiercer than Lu Ming was now. Many people of the same generation as Yan Kuangtu in the Sheng clan had been beaten up by him, and many had died by his hands. Back then, the Sheng clan had regarded Yan Kuangtu as a target they must kill. He even forced Yan Kuangtu to leave the Tianxian region and go to other large regions to train. After that, he rose rapidly, and the Sheng family dispelled all their thoughts. Now, Yan Kuangtu didn't exterminate them, so why would he care about them? Master Yan, I didn't know it was you just now and… I'm sorry. Shangguan Wuchen also flew up to the sky and said in a trembling voice. You don't know it's me? Hee hee, your Shangguan family is really arrogant. You're bullying the weak, aren't you? Are you bullying my young brother Lu Ming because he has no background and no one to back him up? If I wasn't prepared, he would have been killed by you. Yan Kuangtu sneered. No. I was just testing the strength of this little brother Lu. Shangguan Wuchen broke out in a cold sweat. Second brother, what are you doing? We are the disciples of the Shangguan family. Why should we be afraid of him? We must kill that little bastard today. Let's see what he dares to do to us. Shangguan Wuling screamed again. Little sister, shut up. Shangguan Wuchen was shocked and scolded. Shangguan Wuling had married into the Tianxian region and had stayed there all year round. Although she had heard of Yan Kuangtu's reputation, she had no idea how terrifying he was. She had never heard of Yan Kuangtu's battle achievements. Shangguan Wuchen was really afraid that Shangguan Wuling would anger Yan Kuangtu. Second brother, why are you so timid? Who is the Shangguan family afraid of? Kill this little bastard. I will definitely skin him alive and make him regret hurting Xingqian. Her protectiveness made Shangguan Wuling look like a crazy hag. What a vicious woman. Yan Kuangtu's eyes turned cold and he slapped out. Chapter 609. 609 Chapter 609 Ending, Dejected. Pa! A crisp sound rang out, and Shangguan Wuling screamed out in pain. Her body flew far away, and one side of her face was swollen. Shangguan Wuling cried out hysterically. Her hair was disheveled, like a fierce ghost. Buzz! Yan Kuangtu's figure suddenly appeared in front of Shangguan Wuling. His eyes turned cold, and a terrifying killing intent burst out. This killing intent was terrifying to an inconceivable extent. Once the killing intent was released, everyone felt as if they had come to the hell of Azura. There were mountains of corpses and seas of blood everywhere. Ghosts were wailing and wallevers were howling. Cold, cold to the bones, cold to the depths of the soul. Everyone's face turned pale. Shangguan Wuling, who was in the center of the killing intent, was suddenly stunned. Then an expression of extreme fear appeared on her face, and her entire body began to tremble violently. You wicked woman! Killing you will only dirty my hands. Yan Kuangtu's indifferent voice came out of his mouth. He then looked up at the sky and said, I won't interfere in a battle between young people, but if you elders want to bully the weak, then I don't mind bullying the strong. The strong bullied the weak. Overbearing and arrogant. If someone else had said this, they would have looked down on them. But since it was Yan Kuangtu who said this, it was absolutely reasonable. This was strength, and Yan Kuangtu had this strength. Today, it's a fair fight. Lu Ming is the winner. So, the Sheng family can get lost. The last, get lost, was like a thunderclap. The sky rumbled, and everyone's eardrums hurt. Although Sheng Tsang, Shangguan Wuchen and the others were unwilling, they did not dare to say a word. They hurriedly brought the dumbfounded Shangguan Wuling, the seriously injured Sheng Chen and the others, and retreated. In an instant, not a single person from the Sheng family remained. Senior Yan, thank you for saving me. Lu Ming walked forward and cupped his fists sincerely to express his gratitude. You don't have to be so polite with me. Also, don't call me senior one after another. I'm only 100 years old. I'm not that old. Call me big brother. Yan Kuangtu laughed. Big brother Yan, Lu Ming said. He and Yan Kuangtu were of the same generation. Yan Kuangtu waved his hand and the blurry figure above Lu Ming's head disappeared. He looked at Lu Ming and then at Mulan. Good boy. I was still wondering why you were in such a hurry. So you're here to snatch a beauty. Good, this is what a man should do. Yan Kuangtu patted Lu Ming's shoulder. Mulan greets Senior Yan. Mulan walked up to Yan Kuangtu and bowed. Yan Kuangtu sized Mulan up and laughed. Boy, you have good eyes. This girl is worthy of you. How about this? It's better to have the wedding today than today. I'll also have a cup of wine to drink. That's right. Today, Lan and the sacred constellation were supposed to get married, but you snatched it away halfway. I'll leave Lan to you from now on. Mu Tian also walked over. Father, Senior Yan. You're courting death. Mulan shouted. A blush flashed across her beautiful face. She was so beautiful that nothing could compare. Marry Senior Sister Mulan? Lu Ming was stunned. The reason why he had challenged Sacred Constellation was because Mulan had said that she didn't want to marry Sacred Constellation. He had only wanted to help Mulan and had never thought of marrying her. Indeed, although Mulan was extremely beautiful, he had never thought about it. What's wrong? Lu Ming, you don't want to marry her? Seeing Lu Ming's expression, Mu Tian's face darkened. Lu Ming was tongue-tied. At this moment, two figures appeared in his mind. Xian Yanqing and Qiu Yu. He knew very well that Qiu Yu was interested in him. Also, Xian Yanqing. The resources required would be even more terrifying. He wouldn't be blinded by such a small achievement. After making up his mind, Lu Ming no longer felt any pressure. He only had an indomitable will. Then he continued to cultivate. A day later, in a hall of the Sheng family, Sheng Tsang, Sheng Xingchen, Shangguan Wuchen, and Shangguan Wuling were sitting. After 2 days of recuperation, Holy Constellation's injuries had recovered a lot and were almost completely healed. Damn it. That little bastard deserves to die. And that Yen Kuangtu, he deserves to die too. Shangguan Wuling shrieked, her killing intent soaring. She had actually been slapped by Yen Kuangtu in public. This almost drove her mad, and her killing intent was incomparably strong. Little sister, Yen Kuangtu is not someone we can provoke. Even the old ancestor is no match for him. It's best not to say such things. On the side, Shangguan Wuchen said. Second brother, are we just going to let this matter go? Shangguan Wuling said. Of course not. We can't deal with Yen Kuangtu, but we can't let that little bastard Lu Ming off. Shangguan Wuchen's eyes flashed with killing intent. Yes, it's all that little bastard's fault. It's all his fault. If it weren't for him, things wouldn't have turned out this way. Shangguan Wuling was filled with killing intent. Since she could not deal with Yen Kuangtu, she could only direct all her anger onto Lu Ming. The Battle of Providence is in 2 years. At that time, we'll have plenty of opportunities to kill that little bastard. Shangguan Wuchen said coldly. He then looked at the sacred constellation and said, Xingchen, come with me to the main palace to cultivate. It's best if you take revenge personally and behead Lu Ming. I will personally cut off his head. Holy Constellation's eyes were extremely cold, and he clenched his fists. Let's go to the main palace together. The battle of karmic luck is in 2 years. We'll definitely have to go. Sheng Tsang said. All right, let's go to the main palace together. Shangguan Wuchen nodded. In the blink of an eye, the 3 days that he had agreed to meet with Elder Huang had arrived. Lu Ming left the courtyard and headed to Elder Huang's residence. Elder Huang. Lu Ming called out softly as he walked into the courtyard. Buzz. A figure appeared in front of Lu Ming and said, Lu Ming, you're here. The long spear that you wanted has been refined. Take a look. Elder Huang took out a long spear and threw it to Lu Ming, who caught it. It's so heavy. Lu Ming caught it and felt that it was extremely heavy. The weight was more than 1 million caddies. Of course, with Lu Ming's current strength, he did not feel any pressure when he used it. Lu Ming took a closer look. The blood-red spearhead was made of indestructible steel. It had distinct edges and was filled with an indestructible feeling. The body of the spear was dark red and was made of 1,000 refined blood gold. There were some strange patterns carved on it. There were also some black dots scattered all over the spear. Lu Ming fell in love with it at one glance. Buzz. Lu Ming injected his essential core and waved the long spear slightly. The long spear vibrated, stirring up a wave of air. Lu Ming, the tip of the spear is made of indestructible fine steel and is sturdy and immortal. The body of the spear is mainly made of 1,000 refined blood gold which contains infinite black gold. In the future, as long as you have precious metals, you can refine them into the spear and it will continue to evolve into a higher grade spirit weapon. Old Huang looked at the spirit weapon and was a little proud, but also a little regretful. It's a pity that my inscription technique can only stop here. This one is the limit of upper level 6, but I can't go any further. What a pity! Chapter 612. 612 The Tao of Inscription. Many thanks, Elder Huang. Lu Ming was already very satisfied. He kept the long spear and expressed his gratitude to Elder Huang. Go. This time, I've studied your broken spear and have benefited a lot. I'm going to enter seclusion and properly comprehend it. Old Huang said as he waved his hand. Lu Ming nodded and bowed. He then left and returned to his own courtyard. With a move of his hand, a dark red long spear appeared. Lu Ming waved it noisily. The long spear was like a dragon as it danced in the air. The sky was filled with dazzling spear radiance. After a long while, Lu Ming kept his spear and stood still. It's indeed a good spear. The circulation of Zhenyuan is extremely smooth, and Zhenyuan can burst out as much as I want. It's a great help to me in displaying my strength. Lu Ming was very satisfied. With this long spear, Lu Ming's combat strength had increased again. Let's give this spear a name. What should I call it? Since it's based on infinite black gold and can evolve infinitely, I'll call it Infinite Spear. No, I'll call it Infinite Dragon Spear. That's right, that's a nice name. Lu Ming muttered. He looked at the long spear in his hands and grinned. So fucking cliché. Dandan looked down on him. Hey, are you itching for a beating? How is it cliché? Infinite Dragon Spear, how domineering. Lu Ming waved the long spear in his hands. It's just a spiritual weapon of the upper 6th level. The inscription just passed the mark. What's there to be happy about? I told you that the old man's technique was not good. The materials were good, but they were wasted by him. If it were me, TSKD, hey, why are you looking at me like that? I'm a man. I have normal hobbies, not any bad ones. Dandan began to boast shamelessly again. As it was speaking, it saw Lu Ming looking at it with a burning gaze. It was so frightened that it immediately shrank its head back into its turtle shell, leaving only its mouth to mumble. Lu Ming sized up Dandan carefully, his eyes darting around. Dandan, you always say that you're a peerless master, the head of the top 10 war beasts or something. Since you're so powerful, why don't you teach me some peerless martial arts, such as god-level martial arts techniques? How about 8 or 10 books? So that's what you're here for, no problem. Dandan's head popped out of the turtle shell again. She stood up on her hind legs and stood on Lu Ming's shoulders, her 2 claws on the turtle shell behind her back, looking like a peerless master. Really? Lu Ming's eyes lit up and his heart was thumping. If Dandan really had a god-level martial technique, not to mention 8 or 10 books, even 1 or 2 books would be enough to make her rich. Now, Lu Ming felt that his offensive martial arts technique was somewhat monotonous. Although the 9 Dragons' heaven-treading steps was powerful, it was difficult to cultivate. In a battle, it was an explosive martial technique that lacked some variations. If the opponent was prepared, they would be able to avoid it. As for the 3 absolutes of Dragon God, it was the same. They were all explosive martial arts techniques. They were extremely powerful and could kill in one strike, but they lacked variation. If the other party could block his attack, Lu Ming would have fewer tricks up his sleeve. This was also something he had felt during the 2 battles with Qin Qingshan and the Sacred Constellation. Lu Ming needed to cultivate other martial arts techniques to assist him. After all, only 1 or 2 martial arts techniques were still a little lacking. If he could give him a few, that would be great. No, I didn't. Dandan spoke. The 2 short words extinguished the flame in Lu Ming's heart. Nest, without you, what's there to be proud of? You're a liar. You only know how to brag. Lu Ming was unhappy and looked at Dandan in disdain. Hey, kid, what's with that expression? I can't remember because I'm injured. Otherwise, let alone 8 to 10 god-level martial arts techniques, even if there were 100, I would still be able to take them out. Dandan said unhappily. However, the look of disdain on Lu Ming's face became even more obvious. He obviously did not believe Dandan's words. 2 hours later, Lu Ming opened his eyes. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.